Hello friends, welcome to C# Intermediate to Advanced tutorial. Now you are watching part 5 of the subseries C# WebBrowser control. In this video, we are going to see how to display user created HTML document in the WebBrowser control. That means this time we are not going to any web server, and instead we are going to load a static HTML from our local system. Then we will display a button in the static HTML and access that static HTML button and hook that with the C# event handler. Here we will be using the document object model to retrieve the HTML UI elements. So these are all the video decks, the slide decks from the previous video parts. So we can quickly review the content. There are some important methods: navigate, go back, go forward, stop, and refresh. So we implemented these methods in our web browser control. Then we avoided the JavaScript error by emulating it, by emulating the Edge browser with the C# web browser control. Then we learned how to implement the basic functionality of browsing a web page using the navigate method. Then how to use a stop, refresh, the stuff. Then we learned about the important events: navigated, document completed, and progress changed. We also learned about the incoming parameter for the event navigating, web browser navigating event talks, and from there how to cancel the event. And at the same time we learned what is the use of URL and frame property. Now we will learn how to hook HTML content with a C# code. One can create HTML content and assign that to the web browser control via DocumentText property. So when you are navigating to a specific URL in the internet, once the document content is loaded into the web browser control, you can retrieve the HTML content in the string format using the document text. So that's for read purpose. Here what we are going to do, we are going to use the document text property and we will assign the HTML content directly to this document text. That means this property will be useful for you to create a string, or you can build a string that represents a HTML document, or the string will be in the HTML format with the proper syntax. Then you can assign that string to document text. So by doing this way, you are asking the web browser control to load the document, HTML document, from the local system, or you can cook the HTML in the application itself and you can assign that to the document text property, so that web browser control will render the HTML document which you prepared on the fly. So this technique is useful if we want to display static HTML content on the fly. Say for example, if you want to create a HTML report by reading the database content, then so this is the way you have to do. So you will read the database fields, then you will form that as a HTML. Then you will assign that HTML, you will form a string concatenation by appending the database read information. Thereby you are forming a HTML document and you will assign that to the document text. So we can say this will prepare a HTML report. So you can even create a fancy HTML report using the table and other rich feature available in the HTML. We can retrieve HTML document object loaded in the web browser via document property. So there is a difference. When document is loaded in the web browser control, the web browser control renders the HTML content for the user. It will present that HTML so that it looks like the content is displayed in a web browser. So DocumentText property will retrieve the displayed HTML content in string format. This document property will retrieve the HTML in instead of string, it will retrieve it as a object. Recall that we already used navigate method. Navigate method loads document from web address. You will provide a URL, right? Say for example www.dell.com. So it reaches the web server, and from the web server the document, the HTML document will be built dynamically using the web server technique. So we don't know what web server is Dell. If it is ASP, the document content will be prepared HTML document, or if it is a Java EE technology based one, JSP, or some other web services. So it will the HTML document and it gives or pushes that to the web browser. Here in our case, the web browser is the web browser control. So the navigate method loads document from a web address. Whether we use navigate or document text property. So document text property in the sense we are not navigating any web browser. On the fly, on click of some button, generate report, there itself we will read the content from the database and form the HTML string. We can say HTML string. So that means that string represents a complete HTML document. So then it can be assigned to the document text. Or you can navigate a URL and ask web browser control to download the document from the web. Or you are visiting the web server, and web server will run the server side code and generates the HTML and pushes it to the web browser control. So both the way, the document property will give us HTML document, whether you assigned a document text or whether you navigated a URL. Finally, once the document is rendered in the HTML web browser control, using the document property, you can retrieve HTML document content. So this is not a string, it's an object. So this HTML document will support HTML DOM, document object model. That means you can use all the DOM functionality on the HTML document. If you want to check whether the HTML document contains an ordered list, you can check for it. You can retrieve specific element from the HTML document using the DOM API methods. Alright. So in HTML text also you can do that, but that's a string find and substring, all those stuff you have to use to find a specific content. But HTML document, since it supports HTML DOM, it will be easy. DOM is a document object model. HTML DOM means using this document object model which maintains the hierarchical tree, like HTML, and child node of HTML is title, then HTML child is finished, after that body starts, then there will be multiple child. Likewise, it will get maintained by this HTML document, and it provides a lot of rich functionality to retrieve a specific tag from the HTML. Instead of you go and search in the string manipulation, the HTML document provides functionality so that you can retrieve the element easily from the rendered HTML. From document property, one can use document object model, just now as told. One can use DOM calls, that means document object model calls, to work with a particular element. So as already told, the document property gives us a HTML document instance. From this HTML document, we can retrieve HTML elements and manipulate it. So retrieve HTML element in the sense you will use the HTML DOM and its API methods to retrieve the element. Once the element is retrieved, you can even manipulate it. In this video, we will hook the HTML button click with the CH handler function using HTML document exposed method. HTML document in the sense the document property. So see here, in this video we will hook HTML button click with the CH handler. That means we will read the HTML content from the rendered HTML page. Then we will hook that with the CH handler function. That means we need HTML button, then we need to add the on click and hook that to the CH handler. So here we assume that the HTML coder do not know. So here to the document text we will be sending the HTML document in the form of string, right? So here we assume that HTML coder do not know which event handler to use in CH. That means they will create a input of type button and they won't provide the attribute on click and its handler. Usually on click equal to, we will specify the JavaScript function, right? So here the goal is to attach it to the C# handler, and we are assuming that HTML coder do not know the method name of CH that needs to be hooked to the button. So in this technique, in this video, CH code decides that in runtime. That means it will retrieve the HTML button through DOM object, then it will link the on click event with the C# method. So first we will introduce a boolean variable custom doc1 equal to false. Remember, we have two buttons in our web browser tool strip to explore this HTML to CH code hooking. This one is for the first button. So we want to know at runtime which button is clicked by the user. So here we have custom doc1 equal to false. We introduce a boolean variable. When user clicks the user one click in the toolbar, those buttons are aligned towards right. So user content 1, user content 2, like that. So when user clicks the first button, this click handler will get called, and if you see here we are using the DocumentText property. So in C#, this is what called a verbatim string. That means we will specify the @ then we will start the string so that the format will get maintained. Alright, so here if you see we have a simple HTML document, HTML, head, title, and there is a static text, button click handler attached at runtime. Then we state in the body the button placed below is a HTML button. The button is accessed by CH and a handler method is provided at runtime. So this is our button. Type is input, ID is button text, and this one you can skip. This is just a styling attributes. Without that also your code will work, but here we specified some style for our button with position, absolute, top, 60 pixel size, all those stuff. Next, type we provided it as button and value is button. So remember ID is a BDN test here. That's all. So this is the HTML document we cooked on the fly and we assigned it to the document text. So in case of report generation, if you see, this is simply a HTML content, right? We can generate this content at runtime. That means when you read some data from the database, you can do the string concatenation and form the same type of HTML content. After forming that, you will assign that string to browser.documentText equal to the built up HTML document. Like that you can assign. If built up HTML document is a string variable which contains the HTML formatted string information, then you can assign that. Here we directly assign the HTML document using the verbatim string. After that we set this as a true. Alright, the HTML document will render the HTML content once user clicks the btn user 1 button. So it will render this HTML content. Next, just like the navigate method, here we are assigning the document text, right? So once document load is completed, that time also we will be getting the document completed event. So whether you load the document using the navigate method or by directly assigning the HTML content into the document text. So in both the case, WebBrowser will load the content and it render that in the browser. I mean in the control itself. So once load is completed, document completed event will get raised. So that's the place here. As usual, we will say web page loaded. Then here we are checking custom doc1 is true. So that means here we are testing our first technique. So browser, this is our web browser instance name. Then document, this is nothing but a HTML document. Remember, in the user btn1 click or user content click in the previous slide we saw, right? There we used the document text property to assign the HTML content. Here we are accessing the document, which is nothing but a HTML document. From the HTML document, we are making call to get element by ID. Our input text is btn test, right? So we are providing that as a parameter here and get element by ID. So what it will return is HTML element. So remember the objects, HTML document. In HTML document, get element by ID. So this is the example for a DOM API call. There are multiple document object model API calls available that you can check by placing a dot here. I mean the document dot. Once you put, when IntelliSense displays, from there you can read what are all the other DOM methods available. But here we are using get element by ID and we are providing the btn test. For Selenium and other Java testing user may use this multiple times. It's very handy for them. Okay, forget that. So here HTML document get element by ID. We are giving the ID of the tag and that gives us the HTML element. Now we have HTML element in hand. That means we have the button of, we have the HTML button in hand. So if you see here, this is the input type, right? btn test. That means we retrieved this particular element, right? And if you see here, we don't have any on click. That's what we are going to do now here in the document completed. If btn element not equal to null, that means here we provided the ID, so the content is created by us, so we definitely know the element will be there. So this check is not required at all, but anyhow for safe purpose we have btn element not equal to null check. So definitely we will be having btn element. Then if you see here btn element, we are accessing its property btn element dot click. Click here is the event plus equal to, that means we are attaching our event handler. The event handler is new HTML element event handler. Here if you see btn element, we already retrieved this part. So we are accessing the click. That means here it's kind of introducing the click equal to, we usually specify JavaScript function, right? When user clicks the button, go to this JavaScript function and execute something. The same way, if you see btn element dot click plus equal to new HTML event handler, this is the handler function name. So this is simply a C# handler function. So the C# handler function should adhere to a specific type of parameters and number of parameters. So that's what defined by this HTML element event handler. So these are all the event and delegating technique. Click is the event. The event domain is HTML button, and the handler is in the C#. HTML event handler, and we provide the handler method here. We are attaching the handler at runtime. Alright, then after this work is done, we are setting custom doc to false. Now let's look at how this ch handler function looks. Now let's see how this ch handler function looks, and this is our handler function. And if you see, this is what we are trying. And you can pass any method to this HTML element event handler when it adheres to this specific prototype. That means the first object should be the object, the second one should be the HTML event docs. Name is not important. Alright, here we provided the handler, and in the handler we just display a message click event of the script button handled. It's simply a message box, but you can imagine what kind of code that can be written here. Think of a HTML report. So the HTML report displays some 20 to 30 number of rows, and at the end of row there will be some action button, 3 or 4 button. Once a user clicks, it may give further information here, or it can take some action. Alright, just now you saw how we are reading the HTML content from the web browser and hooking that to the C# event handler. Now it's demo time. We will go and see the demo. So here is our web browser. We will go to code behind, view code, and at the form level we will declare the global variable, I mean the member variable, custom doc1. Then we will go to our browser and we will handle the button click, btn user 1 click. So in our example here, place the HTML document with a button having proper ID. So we are going to display a HTML with a button, but you can imagine the HTML content can be a rich content also, which can be cooked on the fly when some of the C# application events are happening. Alright, here if you see, even though we are assigning the content to the DocumentText property, the browser will still load the content. Why? Because here it is just a string. If you see DocumentText, it's from the tooltip you can see it's just a string. So the browser will, once the text is assigned, the browser will render this HTML document, and in the meantime it will make the document property ready so that you can retrieve the content as HTML document. And in the meantime browser will render this HTML. Alright, next we will go to the document completed event. Why? Because here browser is loading this content and rendering it once load completes. So here we assigned a text, browser will load this content, it will raise document completed, then it will render the content. So we go to document completed. Here we will hook our, and remember the order. So here you are assigning the HTML content, right? First browser will load this. Once load is completed, it calls document completed. So in the document completed itself, we are going to hook the btn test with a C# handler. So once the document is rendered, the C# web browser control knows when this button is clicked, it should call some C# method. So the source code is available in the video description. You can download the code, or you can start typing. So it's your preference. Once you start typing, you may get a different experience. Say for example, your OWS, your browser dot document. So it gives you different experiences. So for example, when I go here document, here itself you can see the tooltip, all those stuff which are missing here since I am directly pasting it from the clipboard content. So it will be quick for you to quickly follow me, or we will get lost when I start typing. It takes more time. And once you type get element by ID, you will see the syntax, all those stuff. See, get element by ID. Once I place here or once I open it, you will get this kind of tools. I mean the tooltip information. So finally we need to provide handler for this one. Okay, we will write after this function. That's all. Here handler is simple, and we are just showing the message box, and just like how we accessed the document content, the same way you can access the document content and do some manipulation on the HTML document, or you can do some action on the C# domain itself, or you can populate some other UI control in the document. I mean some other UI control in the C# controls, right? You can do a lot. So here I'm just displaying the message box. Alright, now we will run this. So doing this will load the content from the internet server, but here we are cooking the HTML and we are displaying it. And if you see, the button placed below is a HTML button. The button is, so there's some message, and this button, once I click, it makes a call to our C# handler. And if you see, click event of the script button handled, but in our HTML content there is no action for the button. We are not hooking the on click here, but we are doing that at runtime when document load completes on the browser. Okay, this is one technique. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. And in the next video we will see one more technique for hooking the HTML button with C#. Thanks again, and bye.